The goal for this clip is to go from what we created in the previous module and create a V-neck shirt with an overlapping front. Now, of course, you can go and create this kind of shape right from the start, but it's a good idea, especially in the beginning when you're still getting a feel for the software, to start with basic shapes and make them simulate properly first. And then when everything is in its position, you can easily go from this shape in any direction that you want, and you know for sure that the patterns are fitting the avatar properly. Now, first of all, we need to disconnect the seam lines from the piece around her neck. So I'm going to take my Edit Sewing tool for that and basically select all the seam lines and delete them. Like so. And be careful to always simulate when you make these kind of changes. Now, we will deal with this pattern later, but first of all, we can make it a bit more narrow so it doesn't bother us. And maybe wrap it a little more closer around her neck. And let's simulate. Okay, so we're going to change that later. The other seam line that I need to disconnect is the one that goes down the front, connecting the front patterns. So if I grab my Edit Sewing tool again and basically delete the seam line. Now if I simulate, I see that the overall shape of the front is still a bit off. Of course, I don't need these sharp edges anymore. So I'm going to take my Edit Pattern tool and simply delete these points. And with my Transform Pattern tool, I will pull these patterns apart a bit more just for visibility. Now I also want to create a bit of an oval shape, and we're going to do that. Let's use the Edit Curve Point tool for this. And sort of start with this for now. Since this kind of shirt starts to ruffle up at the end right here, and you can see that the gap in the front is too wide, we can assume that there is more fabric here, so we need to enlarge our pattern so it will have much more fabric that will start to ruffle up as a result, and that will also close up our gap a bit more. So we're going to take our Edit Pattern tool again. Take these points in the bottom and just prolong the pattern. And let's simulate. And as you can see, we're getting a lot more fabric here and it's starting to ruffle up. Also, our gap is closing, but I think we can afford a bit more fabric even. So I'm just going to push these patterns apart a bit and push the points again with my Edit Pattern tool. Alright, we're almost there. There is one important thing missing, and that is the overlapping part. You can see that we have the overall shape and we have the ruffles, but the patterns in the front are actually not overlapping. So if I grab my Edit Sewing tool, you can see that I'm not only able to select seam lines or reverse them if need be, but I can also move seam lines like so. You can see I can easily move them around. But in our case, I don't want to move them, but simply make them longer. So I'm going to do that with this side. Just going to click here at the end point, select the seam line, and just move it like so. And I'm going to do the same for this one. Now it's the other one. And as you can see, I created the overlapping effect in the middle with the help of the seam lines. So I'm going to simulate. It may get a little fussy, but it quickly manages to create the effect. And as you can see, this piece of the pattern is now in the front and this one is in the back, and everything is overlapping in the middle. Now we can tweak this further if we want, or maybe pull the fabric in the 3D window to get the effect that we wish, and we're already a step closer to the final look. Now in the next clip we will figure out on how to make the details smoother.